moving silently down through the centuries, living many secret lives, struggling to reach the time of the gathering, when the few who remain will battle to the last. No one has ever known we were among you. Until now.
Nice.
It's finally upon us. It is finally upon us. I mean, why have we never done Highlander as a deep dive?
I don't know. Like, when you suggested it a couple of weeks ago, I was like, we must have done that. Like, no, we just haven't.
Yeah. 3 years in the game. 3 years in the game, and we've never done Highlander. Well, tonight is the night where we talk about there only being able to be one. Imagine that Highlander. It's where you were only able to be one.
It's like, there can be only one man. Men.
Gillian Duncan says that was cool. Thank you. What is cool is Highlander. Man, we watched this for the first time in a while. I actually got the Blu-ray, even though it's time for me to get up.
Time for you to go and grab something, as always.
From the archive, I still have the VHS. I only have one of the original VHS of Highlander. So,
man, the VHS art is so much cooler than the original movie poster.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to come up at some point, but fucking oofed.
Which one, J-Mac?
The one on the right is actually okay. That one on the left is like, is this a serial killer thing?
That's
like some kind of toilet dweller.
He's
the guy that hangs about in the cinema toilets waiting for folk to come in just to go.
He comes in.
You enjoying that in there?
He comes to clean the drain of people's sewage. We have Heather Dow in the comments saying hello. Hello, Heather Dow. Gillian Duncan, I've seen them all. I think we've got
a mega fan in here, haven't we?
Well, we've got a mega fan like us. Evening, Ross Gunnan, fella. Hope all as well. So today we're going to be chatting. This evening we're going to be chatting about Highlander and its absolute glory. So before we really get stuck into the movie, J-Mac, what was it like watching the movie this many years later from the last time you watched it?
Oh, it's actually not been years since I've seen it. I tend to watch it around about once a year at least, because I do like it. It's one of my favorites. But it was different watching it, kind of with a different eye, kind of looking to kind of pick up on stuff and like knowing some of the trivia behind it and stuff as well. It just made it a lot like more interesting. Plus, my wife watched it with me, and it's the first time she's ever seen it. So that was interesting as well. It's getting the new eyeballs on an older film is always fun.
Mate, I mean, we'll also talk about the soundtrack, but it is a most powerful soundtrack, right? The soundtrack is a quickening in your ears, right? And my wife is very well aware of the soundtrack because I've blasted it all through our marriage. So to put the movie to the soundtrack, I mean, I'll tell you how that went. We'll get to that in a wee bit. See, Matthewman, the man himself, says, "Evening, gents. He is the
Evening,
fella that
fella.
designs these beautiful, beautiful pieces of art that you guys get to feast your eyes upon, like the episode logo for tonight. As you can see, just absolute skill. Make sure to go ahead and follow Craig
How-
Matthewman. See
How
Matthewman
chuffed
every
is the
week.
Kurgan we sell?
Killing is my business, right? Killing is my business. So Highlander is one of those movies like Lost Boys, Rocky Horror Picture Show, all these kind of things. Cult classic movies that just weren't supposed to be as good as they were. And what happens is the movie's released, it does all right, but then the fans give it a second lease of life and create essentially the franchise. They create the memory of what this movie is and carry it through generations to make it the timeless classic as what it is. And I mean, that's great because I recently watched it like yourself, and I was like, I remember it being better than obviously what it is. And that is not a slight on it whatsoever because I watched it still leaving, like, after it finished, I'm still like, right? And I'm looking at my wife and I'm like, see, clash, right? But I'm very much aware that there's a lot in this where I'm like, if I had watched it like my wife, like your wife, now for the first time, would I have that grasp on it? So there must be something. Think about it. There must be something about when you're a kid, right? I think just you're less judgmental about what you're seeing and more into, wow, that's cool. A guy just got shocked with lightning and the windows got smashed. You know what I mean?
We've had this before with the Never-Ending Story. Obviously, you and I are both massive fans of it. I showed it to a friend of mine who'd never seen it before. He's older than me as well, like by a few years, so I kind of thought he would have seen it. It was the same story when we showed it at the cinema, and we had our good friend Todd come up to us afterwards and give his critique on it, and they were both essentially, that was pish, mate. So it was really, really disheartening. So I'm glad I'm so glad that I don't and will never feel that way about this film.
Yeah, and
we'll
that confirms
the meat of it.
Yeah, the second coming of it there the now for me when I watched it just confirmed that it's not a movie that I'm gonna ever fall out of love with.
Yeah,
you know, which I'm sure I mean, I think I've got it on every possible edition now. I've got the Blu-ray, I've got the
Laserdisc,
I've got the VHS,
you got the Laserdisc,
the Laserdisc.
You got the mini disc. You know, I don't think you could ever get it on mini disc, but you could probably get it on Laserdisc. Actually, that'd be a cool thing to add to your collection.
There they are. Speaking of the collection, there can be only 3. Yes, man. Yes.
Well, I, the scumbag that I am, watched it on Netflix.
It's on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. Sure it is.
I
was going to watch it. I was going to watch it on Sky Movies. I was like, I'm sure I've seen it on Sky Movies, and it was like rent or buy. I was like, let me check Netflix. And sure enough, it was there. So I was like, jackpot.
Oh, my wife's tuning into this. Yes. She says, put it this way, I won't be watching the sequels, lol. Great soundtrack, though. Well, while we're on that, right? And this is something that's really funny. And my wife, I never actually told it, so she's still watching. Right, this is why I was laughing hilariously in the kitchen. So I get right in the mood when I know I'm going to watch Highlander tonight. I'm going to watch it tonight. So I'm like doing the dishes and making food for my kids, and I'm like, Alexa, play A Kind of Magic by Queen on Spotify. Right? Alexa's response to me: I can't find I Think I'm Pregnant by Queen on Spotify. I pissed myself, and then I was laughing. Then I went, Alexa, play A Kind of Magic by Queen on Spotify. And it goes, playing Red Hot Chili Peppers on Spotify.
11. 11.
So that was my chuckle.
Like for one of the laughs, I'm giving up.
Oh, I know. Lauren Well says Queen is now playing in our living room. Me saying that here is now playing it.
How come it picked you up that way? That's horrific.
I know. Craig Matthewman says Clancy Brown is amazing in every scene he is in. Seriously underrated actor. He's phenomenal, and I've always said this. No matter what I see him in, when I see him in something, I go, oh, he's gonna kill somebody. Apart from SpongeBob, even then.
Even SpongeBob, he's got a bit of a mean streak, like.
Yeah, my wife said that. She says he's not a particularly nice person, even in SpongeBob.
Aye. So you're a bit of a dick of a crab, by the way. I've met loads of crabs, and you're by far the biggest dick I've ever met as a crab.
Aye, true. So the soundtrack is phenomenal, and I think that essentially there was only supposed to be one track, which was Princes of the Universe.
There was only supposed to be one.
There one. And then the guys for Queen watched an early cut of the movie and was like, take everything that you need because this is class. And I think it's great because I'm watching this, and the things you don't notice when you first watch it when you're a kid, it's like, oh, like every song in the Highlander universe is by Queen. There is literally like Hammer to Fall when they're in the car, right?
There's very little. There's very little in the way of like orchestral score in the film. It's mostly just stuff with
it's Queen.
it's just Queen, or just Brian May smashing a guitar about. You know what I mean? It's great. It's one of the best soundtracks to a film ever, like done by one band. You know, it's happened quite a few times. Like Prince done the soundtrack for Batman, and that's quite a Syrian. But Queen doing this was just a perfect fit, a perfect match. And the music video that goes with Princes of the Universe is just phenomenal. Getting Freddie with his mic stand fighting with Christopher Lambert. If you've never seen it, check it out, man. It's cool. I know you've seen it. I'm talking to the people through the lens here.
Yeah, of course. Queen was just the biggest part.
Let off some steam, Bennett.
They were just as big a part of that movie as the movie was. I think it goes hand in hand, the success. And Christopher Lambert himself has said, if you're going to remake this movie, then don't do the same thing we done. Change it up and find a new Queen. I think it's going to be difficult.
I wonder if he cringes every time somebody says his name. It's Christophe Lambert is his name.
Is that what he says?
And everybody in the world was like, Christopher Lambert. Lambert and Butler. He loves it. He loves it.
So is it actually Lambert?
It is Christophe Lambert.
That's an awful Scottish name.
Who's Chrissy Lambert coming in?
Chrissy Lambert.
Chrissy Lambert does sound like a guy that had a questionable upbringing. Like,
well,
you just know he had like 9 stepdads.
He's French, playing a Scotsman, and then they get the Scotsman to play a Spanish guy.
Speaking of that, right. This is a class wee bit of trivia that I read, and it was like. It's actually kind of 2 bits of trivia rolled into one. The opening title sequence, the opening screed where it's Sean Connery reading "From the dawn of time we came" and all that. That was recorded in a bathroom. That's why it echoes. That wasn't an after effect. He recorded that in a toilet in a villa in Spain, where according to the IMDb trivia, he was staying in that villa working with a dialect coach to work on his Spanish accent for the film. Was he? I did not hear him once even attempt a Spanish accent. Like, at least in The Untouchables, his Irish accent was dreadful, but at least he tried. And this is just like, hello, I'm Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez. Like, mate, nice to meet you. No, just a hint of an accent. No, nothing.
He's so Scottish.
Imagine being a dialect coach working with him. It's like, all right, get it this time, Sean. I am Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez. I am Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez. Aye, that'll do.
So I've got it, yes. Is that right? Yeah, that's
You
fine.
already
Right,
had
I'll
it.
go on.
You're getting paid £1 million for a week.
You are a Highlander, all right. Mate, for everybody that was watching at home, if you go back and listen to that awesome intro, that was the whole pun in Jordan doing an ass fart at the start is because it's recorded in the toilet. That's why his fart actually has significance at the start.
Can we see that again, actually, just for fun, for anybody that didn't see it at the beginning?
It was because it was initially filmed in a bathroom. So it's J-Max kind of in a bathroom with a storm outside. And you know, J-Mac in a bathroom, it's not going to go any different.
From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the centuries, living many secret lives, struggling to reach the time of the gathering, when the few who remain will battle to the last. No one has ever known we were among you. Until now.
And there's a wee bit of IMDb trivia for you. That's actually J-Mac's noise.
Why do I continue to send you these things?
Even like Chrissy Lambert thinks it's funny. Oh man, right. So the movie, man. The movie.
Man.
Right. I grew up watching Highlander because my mum and my gran, I mean, this VHS comes from my gran's house, right?
Mhm.
This was the very one I watched as a kid. This is how I saw it. This was my introduction to Highlander. I'm glad that I'm actually able to hold it and show you, right? But this was my childhood and a tape. Look, and I'm sure it's been rewound and everything like that. Be kind, rewound. But the thing is, right? So as a kid, I watched Highlander and yep, all's good. This is what it is, how it was supposed to be. And then there are sequels. I then come across the sequels a wee bit later on in my childhood. But because I came across the sequels, I can't and haven't always looked at Highlander, the original. I have never looked at that as, what it was intended to be because the sequels exist, right? And I think that's quite crap because if you take Highlander as a standalone movie, it's got the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story, right? So why did we need to make them all space aliens and all that stuff? And it takes away now that I know when I watch it.
It's frustrating because, like I said, the story is completely tied up by the end of it. There is literally no need for a sequel. It was meant to be a standalone film, and then I don't know. I think what happened is it failed at the box office pretty miserably, but it was a real success on home video, especially in Europe. And I think it was basically a bit of fan service. To make Highlander 2, which you can also see his review on an earlier episode, which that was, don't get me wrong, it was an absolute hoot, unlike the film, which is a steaming hot pile of pish. Mink pish!
Mink pish. Hey, Chrissy Lambert, what do you think of mink pish?
So it's a bit the sequel. I'll be honest with you, the only sequels I've seen were the second one and whichever one Endgame is. I haven't seen Highlander 3. And I don't know if there was another one. The Source or something? Has you got the full set? That's fair. It's welfare charity shop for like £3.
No, this was all back when I had to spend like £8 to £10 per DVD. Thanks, mate. This was my younger days. Highlander 2, the Quickening.
This is nothing on the way you buy things, man. I was talking about the fact that that's where it belongs.
Oh no, no. Don't get me wrong. I wish I'd got it in a charity shop. Much Highlander 3, it's the Sorcerer. This is
otherwise known as
the. What was it again?
I think it's the Final Dimension. Does that make any sense based on the film?
You're right. Not really. But we expect it's a Highlander sequel. He has a son in this one that kind of comes from nowhere and then ends up nowhere. And then we've got Endgame, which wasn't terrible, by the way. Wasn't terrible? It was
Donnie Yen in
that. Maybe.
I'm sure Donnie Yen played an immortal in that. I know I could be wrong.
Yeah, he does. He is. He is
I mean,
a- yeah.
I seen it when I was probably 16. It's unfortunately now a very long fucking time ago.
Well, one of the main reasons I really wanted to see this, aside from Duncan from the TV show, which I love, right, and grew up watching also, but Edge from WWE, Adam Copeland, his very first role in any movie was this, and they even say to him, "You've lost your edge," as they're holding a sword to his crotch, right? So it's a wee nod because the age, and by the way, at the start of Highlander, the fabulous Freebirds, Michael Hayes, who still works for WWE. Did you see?
One of the questions I was going to ask you was, were any of those wrestlers any kind of big deal? Because I
Yes.
had obviously not a fan. I had no idea who any of them were. Before we talk about that, though, it was supposed to be an NHL match that
Yes.
he was watching, and the NHL refused to let them film it because the crew basically admitted that they were going to be focusing on the violence in hockey. The violence is the only reason people watch hockey. I have no idea why they said no. You're not doing that. You know what I mean? It'd be like I don't know, wanting to film something in a football stadium and saying that no, you can't because you're going to be focusing on people rolling around the floor like little bitches. It's like that's what football is, right? So. What I don't understand their problem with it. Anyway, so it ended up being a wrestling match,
Yeah.
with some
Janice.
quality sound effects, by the way.
I know. Yeah, good evening, Janice. Welcome to the deep dive of Highlander. Yeah, that was real wrestling. That was Michael P.S. Hayes and the Fabulous Freebirds. So that would have been at Madison Square Garden. It looked like that, but might be wrong.
I think I haven't seen it in the trivia, but I don't think it is. I
Might not be.
think it's something to do with the camera system that was used to get that shot was only available at one stadium back then, but it wasn't Madison Square Garden. I can't remember if it was something in Philadelphia or something like that, but I don't think it was Madison Square Garden.
But that was very much a real wrestling match. And Christopher Lambert and Adrian Paul have both shown up at WrestleManias in the audience. So they've always been interlinked with the wrestling world. And
Are they kind of told to go for publicity purposes, or do they just?
I think they genuinely enjoy it, but when they're there, the camera hits up, and they get the wee look who's here in the audience, and the wee name tag pops up saying, and they're like, "Oh, there can be only two of them."
Get them both there at the same time and just film them both sensing each other and leaving their seat.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool. They should have done that. And then they've got Highlander, the Source, which this is essentially okay. Now you've won, and just in case any spoilers, you can see him winning on the front of the DVD case.
Be like putting Schwarzenegger's thumbs up on the front of Terminator 2.
Like, what the hell?
Oh my god, man.
Again, my favorite ones is Highlander, and Endgame was really good. It was nice to see the story finally between Connor and Duncan together. That was class.
Mm-hmm.
And
we'll talk a wee bit more later on about the kind of spin-offs and sequels, but we'll stick to the old Highlander to start
the
off
old
with.
Highlander.
The
You
old
mean
Highlander.
Highlander.
So the wrestling match happens, then he goes to the car park to have a fight with Eman Fazil, played by the film's stunt coordinator. Now, I remember growing up thinking, that old guy's no doing any of that. He is. He's doing it all. He's doing all the back handsprings. He's doing the backflip off the car. Impressive for a guy of his age. Honestly, the sword fighting in this film, it's not great now, is it? It used to be. It used to like I remember watching it when I was young, thinking it was cool. But the sword fighting scenes in this movie are just so clunky from start to finish. It's just luckily surrounded by a great story and great performances by everybody in it. There's not one bad performance in the whole film. That nobody sticks out as being naff.
No, I'm kidding.
In my opinion, I don't know if you've got a different one.
I mean, Christopher Lambert doesn't come across as Scottish, but
no,
I suppose we can put it down to the fact that, well, he's actually older than what any of us are or what anybody is. So how do we know that that's not what Scottish used to be?
Well,
and that he's just
they-
carried that through the traditions. Eh?
They do address it quite near the start of the film, where the cop says to him, "So you talk funny, Nash. Where you from?" And he's like, "Lots of different places." It's like, right, okay, so that actually kind of makes sense. That makes sense that he does have a really mixed accent because he's so well traveled and stuff. It doesn't answer the question as to why his Scottish accent was mental back in 1536.
No.
Which, going by the year he was born, he was only 18 when he died. So he's supposed to be 18 throughout this whole film. Doesn't he quite add up? But you can forgive it, man. It's the fucking 80s.
Sarah Carr. She says,
she
met
said she
Christopher
met
Lambert. So disappointing. First Highlander I liked and TV show I liked. The rest of the films were gash. Weren't they gash now? Sarah, tell us why it was so disappointing when you finally met Christopher Lambert.
I think I remember her telling me that he was just like, he seemed like he didn't want to be at that event, and it was like a quick signature, and there you go. Whereas people like Warwick Davis or Robert Englund, for example, will actually spend time and chat to you and stuff.
Did we not get told by a friend, not mentioning any names, that Warwick Davis is an absolute prick?
I can't remember who.
No, I know who, but that's something we won't say. But someone who has briefly worked with him says he's an absolute prick, and the only reason he's on TV is because he's wee.
Oh, he needs to get off his high horse.
Sarah says he didn't speak, barely smiled, just looked up himself and had no interest. Just looked up himself and had no interest in being there. Well, I know that he's got sore eyes these days. That's why he wears those shades, because he can barely see. So that probably be why he looked up himself. But that's probably why he barely smiled. He's like, I can't even see one. I would have called him out on that. Like, hey, Chrissy, man, you're a big Chrissy. You've come all this way, man, back to your native land of Scotland.
We Davy Turner, if he turn high, says your class, you're a dick.
Says your class. So I think when it comes to him fighting that first wee dude, you just get like Highlander's no gonna die.
You're in for something. You know, you're in for something different, something you've never seen before. And it's true. I mean, it's we've never really seen anything done right since that film that's been along the same lines.
Well, here's something for you as well. It always makes me think, and this kind of ties into Star Wars. You know how we were wondering, how is it that they have a Sith finder? Remember the Wayfinder for the Sith? Well, I think what they've done was they took Kurgan's blood, right, and they put it into that thing because Kurgan knows where everybody is at all times. Right, and here's another thing. Did you see when Kurgan's spying on Connor? He just pops at the back to look at him and his missus.
Oh, that's way later on.
And they didn't even notice him, man. I'm like, I thought you've got something that makes you feel sick when he's near. Like, nah, Kurgan's.
He does at the end of the scene, but we'll deal with that.
Come on, just barely. Heather Dow says, Kev, your camera is a wee bit pixelated. Aye, what of it? Cheers, pal.
Okay. So I'm using my 3880. What's the problem?
I think it's straightened itself out now. These kind of things happen, innit? So he kind of knows where everybody is at all times, but it's a shame that the other guys didn't. The Kurgan just must have been far too advanced, right?
He is a bit like just pop up pirate, isn't he? It's like you just know where to be saying, then all of a sudden.
Absolutely. Heather Dow says, just saying, it's better now. Thank you. Is my audio levels all right? Have I got any dust in my hair or that? No.
Dust in your hair?
Probably.
What have you been up to before you were here, man?
Sleeping. Nah, again. I think Clancy Brown's performance in this, I mean, he just proper goes for it, doesn't he?
I think I'm right in saying that he basically got paid nothing for that film.
Aye.
Like his wage was very, very poor. He did it because it was a chance to get noticed. Because he'd only been in like an episode of Dukes of Hazzard and like a couple of things here and there. and he hadn't really been noticed yet. And this was his chance to shine, which he absolutely does. I mean, actually looks like a customer that I used to serve when I was at the Whitburn store in Lidl. Fucking Mega Mind.
That's Mega Mold.
To be fair, it doesn't look that bad in the film. That's like an on-set photo, isn't it? Doesn't look that bad in the film. I always wondered about the wee dots around his eyes. Like, are those like cigarette burns or something? Or is it like a tally that he's taken for how many heads he's taken or something? I don't know.
Well, he's taken more than what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 heads, surely.
Maybe the other one's healed because he's an immortal. That was just in the last couple of days. It takes a wee while for them to go away. Clancy Brown is excellent in it, and he's funny as well. Like, you find yourself laughing at the stuff that he does and says throughout the film. But also you get a couple of decent laughs at Lambert as well. Not at, sorry, with. All right, so where are we actually? Where are we? I feel like we're kind of going off kilter a bit here.
Wait, no, I think Lambert had something to say about that. So he tans that boy, which gives you your first look at what the quickening is at the start when the boy gets his head cut off. And then what's cool about this movie as well is I feel like you get 2 movies. And I think all Highlander movies have been like that. And that even does it all the time throughout the TV series as well. You know, but the Family Guy will go, yeah, that reminds me of that time. And then it goes ahead and shows you
the cutaways.
It's fully cutaways, right? And then you realise Connor was banging Mrs. Begg.
I did notice that. You fight with God on your side, Connor. This is the ballad of Mrs. Begg. She doubted Winston's dodgy leg.
No.
Now she waits on him round the clock because she got fond of Connor's cock.
His devil cock. She was having none of it when it went.
He's in league with Lucifer.
Mate, would you not be like, see if your wife went out, came back stabbed, right, dead right in front of you, and woke up the next day, you'd be like, class, she's back. No.
It's a good illustration of how primitive the belief system was back then, though. I mean, it turns out that there's something no right with him. He's immortal, but it's like, burn the witch. It's like right away, burn the witch. And I think that was an accurate representation of how something like that would actually happen back then. One thing my wife actually said when we were watching that, she's like, "Why does it keep going back to like the 1500s?" I was like, "It'll get explained. These things don't happen for nothing." So I think she seemed to have a wee bit of like, what the fuck is going on here? I don't know if I ever felt like that. I've seen it too many times at such a young age that I don't remember ever feeling confused by the fact that it jumps back and forward.
It's an origin. You're getting his origin.
Let's face it, it's not a Christopher Nolan film. It's pretty easy to understand once you kind of.
And of course, any Scottish movie where you've got somebody in kilts, James Cosmo's going to show up.
I beat my kilt the first time I went in the battle. Angus beats his kilt all the time.
He's called Angus in this as well, Angus Macleod.
Was he called Angus in something else?
I'm sure he was called Angus in something else. Mate, aren't all Scottish folk called Angus in every movie?
I'm pretty sure. I don't know why I keep calling you Kevin, to be honest.
Shut up, Angus.
He loves us, man. He loves us.
He loves us.
So, other people considered for the role of the Kurgan. We have Rutger Hauer, Nick Nolte. I don't know, can maybe see it, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I think we'd all go, "Oh, that'd be cool." I don't think it would have, man. He would. Certainly back then, he didn't have the acting chops to pull this off with the same kind of charisma as Clancy Brown did. I think he would have been imposing like a couple of years before he just did the Terminator, but I don't think it would have worked as well.
It is better to burn out and fade away.
Happy Halloween, ladies. So, it's I'm glad Clancy Brown got it. Put it that way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what have you seen Clancy Brown in that you've not enjoyed?
Flubber.
Was Clancy? Oh, he was in that. I loved Flubber.
Flubber was pish. Flubber was a terrible film. I remember being dragged to see it at the cinema, and I was just sitting there, just like, "Oh my god, this is awful! Somebody take my head." But I. So the first cutaway when it goes back to 1536 was filmed at Highlander Castle, which is I think it's near Fort William. I say I think I've been there. It wasn't Buckaroo Banzai. I've actually been there. I remember when I was watching the film, I remember being there thinking, this bridge, I expected it to be a lot longer. And even when you see it in the film, the bridge going up to the castle looks pretty long, like a good maybe couple of 100 yards. It just isn't. I don't know if it was some kind of trick of the camera or whatever, but it made that bridge over to the castle look a lot longer than it actually is. They had to cover up the local tourist car park with like shite and hay to kind of bring it up to back to the date it should have been. And then there was also a wee house next to the castle they had to cover in like they had to cover it and paint it so it looked like stone. Also, if you look in the background, there's like mist over the loch. That actually was put there to cover up some houses that are kind of dotted along the banks of the loch as well. So, like no expense spared in trying to make it look the way it should have. So, pretty impressive. But the accents. Oh, the accent.
Yeah. Christopher Lambert's accent really stood out to me this time, especially to my wife as well. She was like, and he's supposed to be Scottish. I'm like, you don't understand, right?
So this guy could barely speak English. Never mind trying to do a Scottish accent. No, cousin Dougal, I'm not.
What is it says? Yeah, something haggis. Like, cause
you look like a woman, you stupid haggis.
That's we I mean we're forever calling people haggis, right? Here in Scotland.
It was one of the best insults we've got. I'll kick your bastard and head in, yeah, haggis. Although it does sound like one of the Call of Duty insults.
Haggis. And then what is it? He goes, what is haggis? It says sheep's stomach and barley.
Stuffed with meat and barley. And what do you do with it? You eat it! You what? You eat it!
And that. Oh man,
I cannot swim, you Spanish peacock. This is way later on. What was
yeah, Spanish peacock. The thing is, though, that the movie's filled though with all of that stuff. That it's hard to talk about it and not just burst out with the quotes.
This was a class wee bit of trivia for the same kind of sequence at Eileen Donan. It said the extras were paid 25 quid a day, which actually, by the way, back in 1985-86, that's a decent rate for an extra, with a £10 bonus if they took their own horse. That just made me chuckle. I brought my own horse, Ken. Oh, £10 for you, buddy.
The fella that made the movie hasn't really done a lot since, has he? Russell Macaulay. Malachi.
I'll let you keep trying that until we get it right.
Here we go.
Right, go on.
Hey, Russell Malkai. Russell Malsahi. Russell Malkahi.
He's getting there.
Mulcahy.
Russell Mulcahy. Russell Malachi, by the way.
He's Harry Fartbanger's cousin.
Oh, God.
Evening, Kieran fella. Looking forward to the next Paranormal Pattern next week. Make sure you tune in next week on a Friday, usually. Russell Malachi. What's it?
Russell Mulcahy.
Mulcahy. Come on, man. It shouldn't be that hard. That'll be why he's not done much. Because everybody's been contacting Russell Malachi. So he done Resident. It's like he done Resident Evil Extinction, so he directed that in 2007, and then he done the Teen Wolf TV series from 2011 to 2017.
That's something. I think that was supposed to be pretty decent. I just can't watch.
No,
he like
he directed stuff like 13 Reasons Why. Great, that was quite a good show. That Grimm, Scorpion King 2. We all ken that classic.
I remember actually finding the Scorpion King 2 pretty entertaining.
Even the Scorpion King was, huh? Sorry, I disagree with myself. He's done quite a bit.
Sorry, no. It was the Scorpion King I found entertaining. Not
you're thinking
that was
the one.
I was thinking that was the sequel, but no, that was just. I'm pretty sure the Scorpion King 2 didn't have The Rock in it.
No, it had the guy that basically plays the sequel. I call him the sequel guy. Is the same sequel guy as George of the Jungle when Brendan Fraser didn't do it? There's a guy that always does the sequels.
Who actually played him in the sequel?
I'll tell you now, but I'm sure it's the sequel guy. You always get those kids, like the kid for Liar Liar. He's in sequels, the Home Alone, and that's like, stop being sequel guy.
That's not him, by the way.
Is it no?
No, it looks like him, like the wee kid for Home Alone 3. Looks a lot like I'm sure his name's Justin something. From Liar Liar, but I think the kid for Liar Liar was in Dennis too.
Aye, that's it. You're right, and didn't do that. So the guy that played the main guy in Scorpion King 2, his name is Michael Copon, and he was in Bring It On, In It to Win It, and Hawaii 5-0, and One Tree Hill. Oh no,
Oscar winner there.
Aye, mental man, mental. Heather Dow says, on a side note, my eldest is named after Connor Macleod. The night before he was born, we had no name picked, and then we watched Highlander, and that was it.
So, Ian wanted Kurgan.
And Heather turned to him and goes, nah, there can only be one. Kieran says, also Teen Wolf was pretty damn good. Youthful me loved it. Are we talking here about the TV show?
Yeah, I was talking about the TV show.
Oh no, that never came out when he was tiny. The movie did though. Was Michael J. Fox in it, Kieran? That'll settle it. We'll know from that.
Anyway, Russell Mulcahy's background was mainly as a music video director.
That's correct.
And you can actually tell that there's certain like ways that the scenes cut together, and even shot to shot, the way it smashes together is very music video like. Especially there's one scene that really stood out to me was when the Kurgan was breaking into the flat to kidnap what's her name, Brenda.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like as soon as like our flat just looked normal, but then as soon as he burst in, there was like looked like a brothel or something, man. There was like red lights everywhere and shit. And he's chasing her through. It was like and I was like, where's all these fucking weird coloured lights coming from? And it's music video. That's weird.
Kieran says the movie. No,
the movie.
The movie was class. Did you see that end scene? The guy gets his well for it.
No, that was a girl, by the way.
Was it?
Aye, it was. I should let her zip was doing, but it was a girl. I remember having to get that cleared up for me.
He says he watched the TV show a couple years ago. Wasn't awful, in all honesty. Well, that's good. Here's something, by the way, of Mrs. Begg, Heather, and Brenda. Who were your favourite of his misses?
Heather.
Mate, defo.
Aye.
She just was so sweet. And here's one thing about her. See when she crooks it, right? So you see them, they're living their life and that, and she's like, I'm not having babies because I chose to be with you, right? Then fast forward, their house in their area is still the same, so they've done nothing in like the last 60 years to where they live. I would assume they build a fence and just kind of create a wee bit of an ecosystem or something, right?
Don't know where the closest B&Q was. That
mate, they had trees, mate, right? But not only that, did you notice that when she's like on her dying bed, the only thing that changed was her hair went grey. Her face was still youthful as hell.
Oh right? No, they did put some talcum powder on her eyebrows.
Now come on, mate. right?
I think
And
there
also,
was some kind of wrinkling makeup going on, but it wasn't much. Like it wasn't.
and
It wasn't good.
who the hell goes, let me die in peace? Who knows? Ken what? That's me. Right? And goes to lie down and is like, I'm dying. Right? And
I
then
don't
you're
know,
like,
man. I think sometimes they do. I think sometimes people do know when that's
sorry,
their
but
last.
nah. No way, mate. She was like, let me die in peace. And then she just shuts her eyes. And then he's like, all right, cool. You can keep my sword. And I'm burning this joint. And I'm out of here. Right?
Do you know, this was the first time when I was watching that I noticed that he burnt the house down. That was like the
Aye.
symbol of them moving on, of him moving on. But it was actually when she died, I did actually find it quite touching. Do you know what I mean? The
Aye.
way they did it was, it's like the only thing that told you that time was passing was her getting older.
Well,
Because-
her hair changing colour.
Aye.
Because that's what happened. She still
Aye,
looked youthful as hell.
but it
but
was
with
it
grey
was
hair.
nice, man. It was sweet. It
Ah.
kind of it showed you the connection that he had with her, and the fact that he stuck around even though her hair changed colour.
I know, right? How good is that? And I remember saying to my wife, literally said to her, I goes, she's actually got it all right. She's got a young Connor Macleod all her life.
Aye.
So he's going to be able to put her kiddie backs, not to mention all the extracurricular activities that he'll be good at. You know what I mean?
Be good at smashing the cobwebs of it.
Alright, so I thought she got it quite all right. She gave up.
That's probably where the dust came from that made her eyebrows grey.
Yeah, she probably reeked the mink piss on the towards the head. And he was all right with it.
This is horrendous.
I think he done all right, but it's a wee shame, and I liked Heather. I really liked her. She was really sound. Mrs. Begg can.
There was one bit actually where he said it, where he did pronounce it properly.
Aye.
He was like, "Heather."
Aye.
Connor, I'm here. And she comes up the street, comes up the hill holding a fucking sheep for some reason. Just a wee sheep hunting.
Mate, she was bagging a chicken earlier on in the fair. She's like, geez a minute, and she's put this chicken. It's like, please don't kill me. She's just like getting the sack. She closes the sack. It's like, I'll catch up with you soon. I'm away to get myself a new dress.
It's like, where Faye? I never seen a Laura Ashley anywhere.
Also, don't and she dies pretty much in the same clothes she's been wearing for the last 60 years.
Yeah.
Just a
Interesting
hair
fact,
change.
Virginia Madsen, who starred in the second one alongside Christopher Lambert, she actually auditioned for the role of Heather in the first one and didn't get it. There you go, wee factoid for you. So, do you know the cops in this were actually class? Like, I don't mean good cops, because like a few of them were proper assholes. But like, see when it was showing you the kind of the police investigation, that you were actually interested. It wasn't like, oh no, I hope they don't catch Connor. You were actually invested in the way that they were investigating the case.
Yeah.
And the dialogue between the cops was great. And they every now and again they would chuck in a question about another case just to remind you that these are cops and they don't just deal with one thing at a time. I love to be details like that. It's actually really well written in that respect. Said the critic.
That's when we kind of see Brenda come in it, and she's like a sword expert, and she's chasing down Big Nash, trying to find out what the snatch is by chasing out Big Nash, right? And I find it interesting that she's mad on swords, and she could tell everything via sword.
That was convenient, eh?
Aye, because every police station has one of them, right? And I know I'm skipping a wee bit forward here, right? But do you know, I find it very bizarre, right? That when he reveals to her who he is, right, and he literally uses her hand to stab himself, right? That the next minute they're like, well, okay, what happens? Like, surely if you go and stab someone, right, your second emotion isn't going to be, well, new I'm dripping. Hey, wait, hey, Connor, you drip my. You're not the only one.
I found that sex scene was just so gratuitous and pointless, and it wasn't even pretty. It wasn't even well shot. It was just naff. There was no need for it whatsoever, and it kind of annoys me that that's in there. It didn't have to be.
No.
a wee kiss at some point would have done it, but even that was a far-fetched push because she's had literally no attraction to him throughout the whole film. She's been investigating him, and then he's like, by the way, I'm never going to die. And she's like, oh, you're getting pumped the new then. I don't understand why. Plenty of time for that. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like they had to rush it.
Let's get bumped in. It's so spot on though. So spot on. Like, and I always say that realistically, right? That is porn, right? Sex scenes in movies is just porn. Right? It is, because why do you need it? A story doesn't have to, you don't have to see someone nude. There is ways to say they've just done it.
Mhm.
And you don't have to actually see anything. It isn't mandatory nor required, right? Because if you give me a great movie and you see a man walking with a lassie's hand and the door shuts and then the sun goes down and comes up, you've just told me what's happened.
Aye,
I will
Netflix and
fill in
chill.
the blanks, right? You know what I mean?
Aye. I've like, don't get me wrong, like when you're a kid, you love that stuff, but that's what it's for. It's to appeal to like young men and that to go and see films. But
Boobs. To be fair, I did buy quite a few movies I didn't like just
just for boobs. To be fair, her boobies were actually quite nice. In all honesty, be decent if you could actually see them. but fortunately, it's filmed like it's filmed like one of the behind the screen marionette videos. But there was no need for it at all. Absolutely no need. It was like they just had to make it a bit more raunchy for literally no good reason. It would give him more of an incentive to save her at the end, because if she was just a woman that was investigating him, he could have just looked up at her hanging for that thing and went, "Oh, that's handy."
Janice, I'm glad you agree with us. I'm glad. It's one of those things. It's the 80s and we've got to have it. So I imagine, what would you think the interview for the part of Brenda when Roxanne Hart walked in? And they're like, right, so you're going to be investigating. And she's like, oh, this is a great role for a woman. Yep, you know all about swords. You're also an accredited author. This is great. Also, how do you feel about, and I'll let you fill in the blanks here, J-Mac, you see
it. Pumping suspects. But by the way, something again, I was mentioning about how good the cops were and stuff like that. How the fuck did they not find his sword when they first went to the car park?
I know, they've got the wee brushes out and that going against the wall.
He's like, stick it up there, it'll be all right.
He was right. He was spot on.
Aye. So maybe he's just done it so many times that he knows that they never look there.
Probably. Yeah.
But aye, it was no need. Other actors considered for the role of Connor Macleod. Now, some of these I actually found kind of interesting. Now, we've got Michael Douglas, Ed Harris, Sam Shepard, David Keith, Kevin Costner, Scott Glenn, Sting, who was also considered to do the soundtrack, Mickey Rourke, Peter Weller, Mel Gibson, and William Hurt. Now, there's two names in there that I think could have done it well. Kevin Costner and Scott Glenn. I think either of those guys could have pulled that off. Just with the way they look. Maybe more leaning towards Scott Glenn, actually. For anybody wondering who he is, he plays Jack Crawford in Silence of the Lambs. He was also in Greenland with Gerard Butler. He played his father-in-law, I think, in that. Decent film, by the way, if anybody's not seen it yet. It's pretty decent. But don't get me wrong, I think it is what it is. Christophe Lambert made it his thing. It's what he's most known for. And I don't think I would swap him out, but there was some decent talent in there that could have done it.
Well, by the way, do you know who would have been another good shout? And this was purely based on what my wife was saying. Because she was like, is that this person, right? And I'm like, no, that it's not. And she's like, sure looks like them, right? And she's right. I'm going to share my screen right now. Tell me that there's not a resemblance between Tom Jane and Christopher Lambert.
Aye, I think he'd have been about 15 when that came out, right enough. But
Aye.
there's a definite similarity there across the eyes.
No
and
so
mouth.
much in that one, like, but
Jeez, fuck happened to him? It looks like he went on holiday to Benidorm and never came home.
So true. He's in all the pubs and clubs now. Thank your bar staff and your waitresses.
singing the same karaoke song every night at an Irish pub.
Yeah, no. But Thomas Jane would be, even now, like, we know Highlander is going to be remade fairly soon. I've heard rumblings that Dave Bautista could be playing the Kurgan, which I'm not entirely against. And I believe, and this is fact, actually, it's credited, that Henry Cavill is actually the one playing Connor Macleod.
Is it going to be Connor Macleod, or is that a new character? I think
Connor Macleod.
Is it Connor Macleod?
Yeah. And I would have liked to have seen a new character, though. That would have been class.
Speaking of the characters, right, so we've got Connor Macleod was obviously the original, then it kind of led on to further spin-offs and stuff like that. First, you had Duncan Macleod, and then you had Quentin Macleod, and then this name just made me laugh when I read it. Colin! It's going to be fair to a guy called Colin.
Colin!
Colin Macleod. I'm Colin Macleod. I've got a butcher shop in the street. Colin. Anyway.
No bag on that, like Colin Macleod. It's like Peter or Keith. Keith Macleod.
Keith, such a naff name.
Bobby
Macleod.
That's got some meat to it. Yeah.
Well, he is a Klansman.
Mate, the guy that's directing the new one is also the same guy that directed Matrix Resurrections, Matrix Reloaded, John Wick, and Civil War, Deadpool 2. I mean, the person that's
it's going to look good. Just is the substance going to be there to make it worthwhile?
I know. Henry Cavill, I think since they done the Witcher, he's kind of taken on that role of I've got long hair and a sword really well. But will we see him play Connor Macleod really well? I think, and I understand, even Adrian Paul has said it himself, that the reason they're doing it with Connor again is because it's proven. And they've got people that are looking at this as a business that want a return on their money. Totally understand that. But from fan service, if you really want to do something cool, give us a new chapter of the Highlander, Give us a new chapter, give us a new face, give us a new story, right? What can go wrong? I hope it's not going to be a flop. Well, I hope it is if it's crap.
Crap. I hope it spends... what I'd really like to see is a connection movie that goes for the 1500s to maybe the mid-50s. That'd be cool. Something to kind of tell the story of what happened in between.
How cool was it watching Split? And then you realise Split, M. Night Shyamalan. How cool was it watching Split to then realise I've just watched a movie that's in the same universe as Unbreakable?
Aye, that was a cool moment,
right?
Aye. Also, there's a petition going just now to get Split removed from Netflix because it doesn't accurately reflect the true nature of people with multiple personalities.
Oh,
go fuck yourselves. I've had enough. Enough. I mean, totally get your plight. I understand it can't be a decent situation to be in, but it's a movie. It's a movie that used a condition to tell a story. It's not saying that you're all like that. Do you know what I mean? I don't look at. I don't want Highlander removed because I don't wear a kilt. Do you know what I mean?
Nor eat haggis.
I do eat haggis. Haggis has class. I'll have you know. So just things are. It's made for art and entertainment. Fucking just leave stuff alone. Leave it alone.
I know. Matthew Min says, "Be good." if he was a nutcase who just thought he was immortal and was going about lopping folks' heads off.
That's what I would actually call the bag that I carry the heads in. That's my nutcase.
Yeah, that'd be really funny. So he then starts to bang the lassie that's investigating him, and you can always tell that that's the new love interest. Even when that happened, my wife said it. And by the way, just while we're on that, we'll talk a wee bit our wives. My wife thought it was all right, but I'm not watching any more of that. Like,
well, she said that in the comments earlier on. She's like, I'm not bothered about any of the sequels.
aye,
She's
like,
what else did she say? Like, did she say anything while watching it that
well, I'm
stood
like,
out to you?
I'm like this. Right? I'm like this, right? And I'm like, right. Even at the start, the minute Princes of the Universe kicked in, I'm like my wife. Right? I'm proper just animated. Like, how class is this, right? How class is this? Right? And then I do the whole, right, see this, by the way, you need to understand this, right? He can get killed in that, but he'll no die, right? You got to cut his head off, and then this big lightning thing happens. I've already explained it all to her, so she's got a bit of a background before we watch it, because I can't have her being confused through this. Can't have her being confused. I want her to enjoy the experience. We're watching it, and I'm like, I'm just like watching it, like, oh, this is class, and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm like, she's like that. I'm like, right. So after it finishes and that, it comes on, and I'm just like that. And she's like, so you said though that there's sequels, aye, but did he not just win the prize? I'm like, kind of.
Hey, forget about it. Forget about it. That shit don't matter no more.
I'm like, no, he doesn't win the prize, right? No, he doesn't win the prize because there's sequels. And then at the end, he's like, it's like, so what's the prize like then, Macleod? He's like, oh, it's class. And she's like, you just says didn't win the prize. I'm like, well, it does, but it doesn't. Right.
I remember reading the synopsis on it for Netflix. Got it so wrong as well.
Aye.
It said it was like a movie about immortal sword fighters, essentially, that have to kill each other till there's only one left who can win the prize to live forever. I was like, nope, you got it wrong. It's like people writing synopsises without even watching them.
I know.
Me. Anyway, my wife, I asked her for her final kind of thoughts on it today. When we were watching it, there was a couple of, like, she was kind of confused. Like, why is this jumping back and forward? I was like, fucking wait. So you'll find it.
Sometimes you just need a good slap, not a closed fist.
No, that was me hitting my own leg, by the way. Didn't kind of get up and Amber Heard the fuck out of her. So there's a few questions here and there, and she was like, that's a bit far-fetched. I was like, aye, but Highlander. And then like, it was a bit where they fell through the skylight right at the end, just before they have their final battle. She was like, they'd never survive that. I was like, they would. They're immortal, man.
It'd take him a wee while to get up, but
So, aye. But I asked her today, just before I came through here, I was like, right, so final thoughts on it. She was like, it kept my attention, and it was better than I thought it was going to be. So I'll take that as a win for a film that's that age, that she's never seen before because she wasn't interested, and it kept her attention. Murray watched it too, by the way, and the Kurgan scared him. The Kurgan is a scary bastard. Like, he's properly terrifying. Like, even that last swing of the sword he does, where he's like, ah! It's like, what's with the tongue, man? You're a scary prick. The fucking safety pins through the neck and all that. When he looks scarier when he's in disguise.
Hi, I don't know much, you know, mate.
You don't stick out like a sore thumb at all.
Aye.
Also, his sword wouldn't work.
No.
That's Fonty bits at his first clang.
Mate, he had a slice of heather. See that moment where he's like,
see when he revealed, that when you just see Connor's face change, you're like, oh, he never knew.
And she didn't tell him. My wife's like, why didn't she tell him? And this is my reasoning. It's because Heather knew the Kurgan was a madman and would probably kill Connor, and
Mhm.
knowing that if she told Connor, Connor would go for him, and
Aye.
she'd lose Connor forever.
Aye. Also, it's not like she's going to get pregnant and give birth to a Wayne that's got paper clips through its ears. You know what I mean? There's not going to be any telltale signs later on.
Well, there would have been to begin with, like. So, chances are.
And this is a conversation I don't feel comfortable going to.
Do me a favor here, right? So imagine a scene where she does tell Connor about the Kurgan, right? Lay it out for me, please.
Connor. See that guy that killed Ramirez? He scalded me. Heather, what are you seeing? Can't do that. I can't joke about this. Say it on there.
No, you're not joking about it. Also, it's fiction. It's fiction.
Oh man. Nah.
No, come on, just deliver the line.
Right. Heather, this is serious. Put down your haggis. We need to talk. See, when it comes to you and me, there can only be one me. Mate, I'm done. I can't go any further from this.
Come on, man.
No, I would need to sit and write it out. That's nonsense. Put me on the spot like that.
So unlike me.
I know. Nothing like
I can't imagine.
Nothing like actually putting the sound effect of one of my jobbies into an episode either.
It was filmed in the toilet. So was yours. It only made sense. not by me. do it again.
From the dawn of time we came, moving silently down through the intestines.
Oh, no.
Struggling to reach the crest of the bumhole. We're the poo that remains.
Right.
All battered down the pan.
No. So,
Oh,
oh man. So the wee fella. So when I watched this initially, I always thought, like I said, I've seen the sequels, so I always thought, there's always many more immortals out there. I didn't realize that this wee fella pal who gets done in the alleyway. Remember? Oh, and by the way, what's with the boy that gets some new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where the lassie gets a chainsaw through the belly, thrown to the side of the.
we had the same discussion. We had literally the same discussion, but I think it's more conceivable that he survived that than she survived that.
I know. But the thing is, right, he gets stabbed right through the body, right? The wee guy that tries to shoot him. By the way, why was he kicking about with a submachine gun in there as well?
The guy's it's like a paranoid Vietnam vet. Essentially, it seemed like he was on like a vigilante mission because he seemed like he was out to find crime. It was like I don't know if he felt like he was a protector of the night sort of thing. That's how it came across.
He gets Kurgan's sword straight through his body, lifted in the air, and then thrown against a wall. All right, and then the next day he's upright, he's talking to the cops, describing.
No, he's not upright. He's lying down. To be fair,
it felt like he was upright. He's like that. He's like, it's not him. No. It's like, you're just such a fucking. You got a sword put straight through you, lifted in the air by Kurgan.
But I like that. I love that wee interview bit with him because it showed you the cops were only focusing on Macleod for all the killings. It's like, listen, was that him? He's like, no, and he's like, come on, it was dark. Surely it was him. And he's like, no, the guy had his fucking sword in me. That wasn't him. So I really like that scene actually. And then see when he cuts the roof off the car and peels the roof back, and the guy's just sitting there like, and then he jumps and he throws him at the car, jumps in, looks at the old lady, and he's like, Mom! And Then he starts driving about, and she decides that the best thing to do is stand up
Oh.
and fire the front of the bonnet. It's like, what are you doing, hen? Just sit there and take what's coming.
That's what I said to Heather.
Oh, that was you. That was you. My name's J Mac, and I take no responsibility for that, and do not endorse that message.
It's just a joke.
It's still not good enough.
Fiction.
How gutting is it when Ramirez dies, though?
I know, and by the way, I found it like he was getting the better of the fight the whole way through, and then at one point he gets knocked down and hit, and then he's like, "Oh," and then
Kurgan's he's like, "You seem to have shattered my collarbone, you prick."
Mate, and Kurgan's just like, "Well, that's you lost," and he's just like, "Oh," he's sitting chatting smack to him before he cuts his head off. Ramirez, what are you playing at, mate? Grab it, day son, man.
That whole scene, although it's cool, like it's a cool scene, but there's so many bad special effects in that scene. But like, see, like with if they hit the wall and the walls just explode and stuff, it's like that's a bit naff. But at one point, the Kurgan hits the wall, and you see this like wee red flash, and then the wall explodes. Mel, my wife, was like, "What's with the wee red light?" And I was like, "Oh, that's the quickening." And I just knew inside, I was like, "That'll be the flare that set the charge off." But then there was like bad matte paintings and stuff, and there was a bit that was Ramirez and the Kurgan up the top of the stairway when everything else is falling away, and I was looking at it going, "That almost looks like stop motion, like bad stop motion." I don't know if it was or not, but and then the clear, obvious dummy when Ramirez got his head cut off. There was some poor elements to it, and then the big elephant in the room when it comes to the special effects was winning the prize. Oh God, we spoke about it briefly before we came on. Like for some reason, all the quickening just smashed all the glass round about him, but then we get like a Raiders of the Lost Ark moment that I still can't make sense of. What were all these demonic figures that were going inside him, and
was that maybe just because it came from Kurgan? That's kind of what I into like as a kid. To me, it was always like, well, he's just taking the meanest, most baddest guys, quickening, and I think the quickening.
He wasn't a demon though. He was just a bad immortal.
But maybe the quickening represents the kind of person, or something like that. No,
I don't know. And also, you could see the wires. You could see the wires that are lifting him up and everything. It's just such a badly done scene. I mean, even back then they had the ability to hide wires better than they did there. It almost felt like they'd ran out of money by that point or something. It was pretty naff. It was a great ending, but disappointing visuals.
And so, just so I'm aware here, so himself and Brenda sitting on the the moors, right? And
the Highlands, the moors. The moors. That's in England, you prick.
You said that I am Kevin, and I take no responsibility. But the thing is, so they're just all hugging up in that, right? So it's still, so can he have kids now? Can he die? Wasn't he really said though? Was it?
It's specifically said. I don't know if you were already trying to convince Lon how class a film it was by the time that voiceover was happening.
I think it was.
Because he's basically saying, he says, you're allowed to love me now. I can have children. He says, I can grow old and die. It's all there. It's all
why
put out
would
for
you
you.
want to, why would you want to grow old and die?
Because who wants to live forever? Boom!
But
he's demonstrated why he wants to grow old and die, because he witnessed Heather dying.
And he's like, that looks like class.
And Rachel, like, he would have witnessed her dying if he never left her. I'm sure they had a wee bit of bang bang going on. But maybe no, because he knew her since she was like 10.
I know.
So I don't know, maybe would have felt kind of wrong for him. So, but there was actually, that was something I was going to say. There was 8 minutes
shot with her in her hand, and he's like, it's a kind of magic.
Aye, she's like, "You're alive. Why didn't you die?" And he's like, "Hey, it's a kind of magic." Shh. But 8 minutes of this is a direct piece of trivia from IMDb. 8 minutes of footage was removed from the original American theatrical release. The original version of the movie was not released in America until 1996 with the 10th anniversary director's cut DVD. All subsequent DVDs have included the director's cut. Amongst the footage removed was the opening flashbacks to Scotland as Connor sits in the stadium. Right, so they took that out. Facile doing backflips in the parking lot. Connor's wife saying goodbye to him as he rides off into battle. Connor lying on the ground in agony after being stabbed by the Kurgan. And a flashback of World War II with Connor rescuing a young Rachel. In addition, the scene in which Connor is driven away from his village was trimmed, removing the headbutts and the more violent punches and kicks. This is America.
Yeah.
What are they so terrified of in that they felt they had to remove it?
All of the above, mate.
But that's how they live their life. You know, they live in a violent country. With violent, there's violence everywhere, and I've never understood the American censorship. That's what I'm trying to say. We had the video nasties epidemic back in the early 80s, where the BBFC were like banning everything for kind of no good reason. But America just seems to have never let go of the censorship thing, and it's for silly shit. Like, if you watch an episode of Sons of Anarchy, you can literally watch somebody getting their daughter burned in a pit alive, but you can't say the word fuck. So where's the cutoff? Where's the cutoff for American censorship? I don't understand it.
Our American friend Janice said, "America is afraid of everything." Lol. True story, man. True story. I think the legacy of Highlander will be that there will only ever be one Highlander movie that stands the test of time. One day someone will be checking out a landfill and they'll find an old relic like this and go,
right next to the
They are
Atari
immortal.
copies of E.T.
Aye. Destined to live forever they must. Duel down the ages until only one remains. Only decapitation by sword can release them from their age-long battle for an incredible prize. Power beyond imagination. From the Scottish Highlands of the 16th century to present-day New York, they war for the prize, while the fate of mortal man hangs in the balance. Starring Christopher Lambert as Greystoke and Subway fame, of Greystoke and Subway fame, and the best of the Bonds, international superstar Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
I mean, I might have to watch Highlander 3 just because I don't know if I'll bother with the source, but I've seen Endgame. But nah, it should have just been left alone. And saying that, I know that the TV series was pretty good.
Brilliant.
In fact, I'm sure the TV series has got a higher rating on IMDb than the original movie, which is quite impressive, to be honest. But just before we kind of wrap up, how funny was the scene where he was having the duel with the guy, the English guy?
I know.
Shoot him, sir, in the back of the head, sir, now, sir. he's absolutely steaming having this duel, and he's just losing, and he just keeps getting back up, and he's like, "Listen, I'm sorry I called your wife a bloated warthog, and I bid you a good day." So that class me line. And then shoot him, sir. It's just funny. It was a good wee bit of comic relief.
He gets shot in his ass.
Aye. Hodgkins.
Out of 5, how many would you give Highlander?
I'm gonna go with 4.
4?
Yeah, mainly because that end scene with the dated special effects, even back then, they should have, I don't know, even get somebody else to play Ramirez and save a bit of money there and spend it on the effects. I don't know. But aye, it's a 4 out of 5. It's still an awesome film. There's no getting away from that. It's always going to hold a special place in this black heart of mine.
I give it 6 out of 5.
Can't do that, boy. Can't do that.
Fine, 5 out of 5. There's
There
no
can
way
be
that this
only
will.
5.
There will never be a tarnished moment for this movie. It plays such a huge part in my childhood, such a huge part in my soul, and the soundtrack's just bloody phenomenal. Yeah, Janice gives it 4.5 out of 5. Hey, guys, give us your ratings. Let us know.
I never thought to ask that.
I know. Memorable scenes, J-Mac. What's your memorable scene?
I actually love the introduction of the Kurgan. Like just that kind of aerial shot of it coming in, and then it just reveals him, and you get that kind of guitar hum. And it just
And Connor's
shows you
like,
this-
oh yeah, haggis.
just that reveal was awesome. Then like he kind of looks up and he's got his horse up in its back legs, and it's just old fashioned, like medieval looking bad guy fun. And I love that image. The Black Knight.
He's a badass. Even Connor was just taken back. I'm like, what the hell? For me, the memorable scene will always be Ramirez getting his head taken off, man. I just felt like he could have done more. So I kind of feel like he deserved to get his head cut off. He's such a bitch. I mean, Janice's one is walking on the bottom of the lock. He's like,
I'm alive.
aye.
I can breathe.
But I thought it was like he would drown and die and then wake up again. Like, at what point did he grow gills?
I don't know. I don't know. Just the quickening.
That's the answer, the quickening. And your most memorable quote, J-Mac and Janice.
I have something to say. It's better to burn out than to fade away. I think that was a good impression, actually. It came out better than I thought it would.
Oh, class, man, class.
Class, that's good that you think that about yourself, J man.
No, well done, J-Mac. For me, most memorable quote will always be the same thing, mate. There can be only one. I don't think you can hear that anywhere in any movie, in any piece of cult, popular, whatever that is you're into, right? Pop culture. There's nothing that you'll hear that and not always think of Highlander.
Right.
You know,
Very true.
even if like if you're at school, like when I was younger, and someone would say something like the teacher said, and that's what we call a quagmire, and I'm like, ha ha ha, giggity, right? If someone was to say, you know, and the square root of blah blah blah, that means there can be only one, right? You just know I'm like that. There can be only one at the back of the class. There's no way I'll hear those words and never automatically hear Queen. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely roast my ears.
I'm going to do it next time I'm in a Chinese restaurant or something. I'm just going to be like, what would you like for your starter, sir? There can be only one ton soup.
You've got no style is Janice's favorite.
What was that one? You've got
It
no style.
was it not Kurgan that said that to You've got no style? It
I
definitely,
can't remember.
it definitely was said. I'm sure Kurgan, you've got no style. It's between two immortals.
Another one for me was when that arsehole cop was interrogating him at the start. He's like, I'll tell you what happened, Russell. You went down to the garage for a blowjob and just didn't want to pay for it. I was like, oh. That's nasty.
Syrian, absolute Syrian. Oh, that's it. Aye, Ramirez telling Connor. And that's true, aye.
Crude and slow, clansman, your attack was no better than that of a clumsy child. Never overextend your thrust. You're vulnerable and off balance.
Connor, Heather, please.
Proper tries to kill him, doesn't he? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our Highlander deep dive, and I've absolutely bloody loved it, man. I've loved revisiting it. I've loved promoting it. I loved speaking to Matthewman and seeing his absolute phenomenal pieces of art. As always, make sure you check out Matthewman's stuff. You can find him everywhere. Yes, Jay says Janice. We will do another. We've got Paranormal Parter coming next week, and we will do another deep dive soon, and we'll get another watch along on the go. Please let us know what you fancy. I'm totally up for covering a deep dive, maybe a movie that we've not seen. Any suggestions, please put them in our social media. You can find us everywhere on social media, or you can contact us at www.jibberjabberpodcast.com, or you can check us out at jibberjabberscotland@gmail.com. Go there, let us know what you want to see us deep dive, and we'll either put that in a poll or just go ahead and do it. J-Mac, what's this experience been for you, talking about Highlander, revisiting it, showing your wife? It's just, I love that we do that.
It's been fun. I think it's something we should definitely try and do with more of the deep dives, is try and bring the wives in on it, because there'll be certainly films that they've never seen before. Not necessarily movies that they'd even ever want to see. So the fact that I've got this platform as an excuse to force her to watch stuff is just an absolute pleasure. And let's keep on doing that. And it's Ice Pirates. That sounds dirty.
And it's Ice Pirates. So I will keep doing that. And it's Ice Pirates.
I just read it and I said what I was reading.
For those listening on,
it's been a blast. It's been a blast.
For everybody that listens here on Spotify and everywhere else, there was a comment that J-Mac just read, because believe it or not, a lot of our audience only listen via MP3. And if you do enjoy the show, which you do, because I see the numbers there and you're always downloading them, come along and watch us live. Be part of the show, like Janice, like Stego, like Matthewman, like Heather Dow, like everybody that comes along and takes part, and we love you guys for it. See, Matthewman says The Room. We haven't done that. We haven't. Not yet, but we will.
It's bullshit. We have not done it. We have not. Oh, hi, Mark.
There's always time. But on that note, everybody have a wonderful Sunday evening and enjoy your full week. And let's see what happens in the world of cinema. Let's see what happens in the world. And we will see you guys back here next week. J-Mac, anything you'd like to say before the beautiful, beautiful credits? Ding. Roll.
And that's a wrap.